A quick note before we begin today's conversation. This episode features a deeply honest discussion about suicide, loss to suicide, and the traumatic aftermath of sudden death. We talk about these realities openly because we believe in grief literacy and in destigmatizing conversations around mental health. Please take care of yourself while listening. And if you need to skip today's episode entirely to protect your own well-being, please do so. The show will be here when you are ready. If you are struggling or need immediate support, you can call or text the Suicide Crisis Lifeline at 988 if you are located in the US or Canada. Welcome back to Nothing Happens for a Reason. I am so grateful to be here with you for Season 3. This is a space where we honor the truth of grief without the pressure to fix it or find a hidden meaning. We believe in dismantling the platitudes and sitting with the messy, unfiltered reality of loss. Whether you've been with us since the beginning or you're finding us for the first time today, I'm glad you found your way here. Just a quick reminder, our Season 3 giveaway is live. If you rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can be entered to win. Check the show notes for the how-to and head to Instagram to see the prizes. Let's get into today's episode. This is Nothing Happens for a Reason.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
My name is Makenzie. I live in Oklahoma, and I'm excited to be doing this.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, why don't you share with the listeners what prompted you to reach out to me?
I think what prompted me to reach out with you, which for one, I love the podcast, and I think it's great to be able to talk about grief and everyone's own experience with grief. And because of my losses, I've gotten really into prevention type work and making it kind of like my mission to be able to talk about the people I've lost. So that was what really prompted me to reach out.
Where does kind of your loss journey start?
It kind of starts really far back in my childhood. So my parents separated when I was 6. I think I was around 6. Because my mom was really struggling with addiction and was kind of in the thick of struggling with mental health, addiction, all the things that come with that. So whenever I was about 8, that was the last time I saw my mom in person. And my dad raised me alone pretty much my whole childhood until I turned 18. But whenever I was 13 years old, my mom actually passed away by a drug overdose, but it was intentional. My mom did die by suicide when I was 13.
Mm.
And
Wow.
and I remember it being really tough and confusing for, being a 13-year-old girl who already didn't have my mom, but I think there was a piece of me that was holding on to the hope of her getting clean and, getting the mental health treatment that she needed and coming back home. So when she did pass away, it was a reminder maybe that this was real and my mom is gone,
Yeah.
like permanently.
Mm-hmm. Since you didn't physically see her for many years before she died, were you in communication with her at all during that time, or is it pretty
I
no
wasn't.
contact? Okay.
It was pretty no contact due to some like abuse that occurred by the hands of her to me as a kid. As an adult now, and being able to look at the bigger picture, I know addiction can really mental health and addiction, both together and separately, can, make people do things that they wouldn't do as themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
I think being 13, that also added to the complicatedness of losing her, for one, by suicide, and for two, as a teenage girl, you want a mother, but maybe in my scenario, it was like not the mother that I got,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
You wanted a mother figure, but yeah, not the one that
Yeah,
not the option that you had.
Exactly, and, my dad dated, and I had women figures in my life periodically. However, for me, it was really tough, like, these women would try to step into the role of mom, and I'm like, "But you're not my mom." Maybe
Yeah.
that was just spicy me though, being a little bit of a teenager.
Both can be true. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And I know that in the submission form that you did send in,
Mhm.
you had written about it sounds like there was a period where it was kind of not entirely sure if it was intentional or not. Will you talk a little bit
Yes.
about that process with the family?
Yes, so the whole thing is really messy because there was a really long custody battle between my parents, and that made things really extra messy between her family and me because I did, like, tell the court my mom was doing these things to me, and so her family does hold, I think, still some resentment and hurt by me telling the court that. However, because of that, I wasn't invited to the funeral. So I did not get to, like, actually say goodbye to my mom, that extra closure. I know there's not really closure with losing
Yeah.
someone, right? But that extra piece of, like, the last time I saw
Yeah.
my mom, she was alive and I was 8. And
Yeah.
so that was all I had to
Mm,
really go on, and to be honest, that's not the person I wanna remember my mom as.
right.
There's still kind of that. Some people don't think it was intentional, some people do. From what I have been told from members of her family was that she sent a really long text message to someone in the family. I'm still unsure. I've gotten 2 different answers on, like, who received that message, but she sent a really long message, and it was very visibly like, "I've done a lot of bad things." It seemed like a suicide note
Mm,
in text format. The other piece that makes me and my dad believe it was a suicide, for one, my mom did have mental health struggles my whole childhood, but also she was living with someone who just a few months before she passed away died by the same drug mixture, and, like, she knew that that mixture would result
it
in,
was lethal. Yeah.
yeah, she knew the end result of that because the person that she had lived with also died from the same thing. So just for me, that's the other part of the grief that makes it complicated for me is I my when my mom passed, from everyone I've talked to, she was getting clean and was
Mm,
on medication for detox,
yeah.
which makes it harder for me because that's why I hate that her death certificate says drug overdose.
Hmm.
Or, like, whatever is, more the more professional language for that,
Like lethal
however.
combination of this and
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
and in my state, suicide prevention is not discussed, and it's not handled very well. I think, nationally, that's something we could do better at, but especially in Oklahoma, I think that's something I'm really pushing for as advocacy and things.
Yeah, totally. This might be kind of an odd question, but when you think about either intentional overdose or suicide by overdose,
Yeah,
does one like feel better to you and better in quotes because neither are good?
I've never been asked that. That's a really good question. To be honest, I don't I don't think so. I think both is terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I think for me, looking at it, both are mental health.
Hmm.
Both are, in my opinion, both are mental health because my mom began using to self-medicate.
Hmm.
We all knew that that was something openly. My mom, again, she did have diagnoses, and that was something that she was openly dealing with. Like, I saw firsthand as a young child. So I think for me, it's not that one is worse than the other. It's just both are things that need to be talked about.
Yeah. I ask because, and depending on different phases of my
Yeah.
grief, I have gone through different like internal processes for me, and having a sister who died of an overdose that like
Yeah.
95% sure, right? I will never know, but pretty confident that it was unintentional. And in the wake of the immediate trauma of that in the first few months, I was very much like, I almost wish it had been intentional.
Mhm.
Because the idea for me that my sister didn't know that was her last day on earth was fucking heart-wrenching for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I would rather have her have agency in this than think she was going to bed and was gonna wake up tomorrow. Of course, there's so much different layers of
Mhm.
pain and trauma with intentional suicide that I'm sure would be fucking horrible on the other side of it, and like just
Yeah.
in the moment. And I don't know if it's just like a sick the grass is greener
Yeah.
within my grief and trauma, but I've had that thought, different phases of it, of like, yeah, like maybe that would have been better for me.
No, and I definitely hear that, and that's and like I appreciate your perspective on that too, because for me, it was like everything at once. Like I'm
Yeah.
13 and I'm like,
Yeah.
my mom's not gonna see me graduate high school. My mom's not gonna see me go to college. My mom's not gonna see me get married. My mom's not gonna see me have a child. Like all of the things that, I've hit now. I think that was the immediate thing. And then the suicide aspect though was like, but she purposely
Yeah.
didn't see that.
Yes. Oh my
But
gosh.
then
Yeah.
there's the other side that is with the drug overdose aspect of, like, if she did like, if it was unintentional, right, and
Mm.
she relapsed. That's the other hard part of, like, my mom couldn't get clean for me, and saying it out loud sounds so selfish, right? It
Mm.
sounds so selfish from my point of view because to me, it did feel selfish as a 13-year-old girl. Even there's
Absolutely.
moments now that
Yes.
I in my grief journey, right? Because it's a never-ending
Yeah.
grief as we know. It's not like, "Oh, we go through the 5 stages and then we're magically cured." Like,
We're
it's
done.
not that way. I wish, right? Like, once we get to accept it, it's fine. It
Yeah.
just goes away. However, like, you and I both know that's just unfortunately not how grief works. And so there is moments when I see my kid, right? When I had my daughter, it was like, all of it comes back up and re-triggers the things,
Yes.
or my kid's walking now and it re-triggers the thing. She's not here for it.
Yeah. And I think it's so important for other people to hear what you just said. And as, two people sitting here who are in the mental health world,
Yeah,
who we understand so deeply, personally and professionally,
yeah,
suicidality, and that it's at the core, it's not a selfish thing. And like
absolutely.
us having all of that knowledge, there can still be absolute moments of like that feels selfish. The
Absolutely.
pain of that is so, I think, important to name for people because it's normal. It's normal to feel that way. And, we already said it. Two things can be true at one time. We can understand it and also have
Yeah,
moments of when you're watching your daughter walk that's like, that felt selfish that she's not here to see that.
exactly. And I appreciate you saying that too, because as someone who is for one, I am in the mental health field and I care a lot about suicide prevention because my
Yeah.
mom, which we'll get into talking to a little bit, but like my mom isn't all I've lost to by suicide. It wasn't selfish. I don't think like I can sit here today and say neither of my family members that I lost by suicide or mental health related stuff was selfish. They were genuinely struggling with something.
Yeah.
And it's hard as the survivor of the loss to reframe that.
Hmm.
But it's also like for the listener, it's definitely I think it's a normal thought to
So,
have.
so normal,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Because we're
the,
human, right?
yeah, we're human, and like the deep pain of our trauma and our grief and our longing, like, because at the core, I think, at least for me, when I have moments of like, oh, those things are selfish, like it's because what's underneath that is like they're not here for these things. Like
Yeah.
they're not here for things that like they quote should be here for, and they like
Yeah.
chose maybe, right, to not. And yes, like when people
Yeah.
make that decision, like they're in fucking deep, deep pain. And that feels like the only option for so many people too. So again, it's holding all of it and it's hard. It adds so many
Yeah.
complicated layers of grief.
And I'm glad you mentioned that too. You're mentioning really great points because as someone who, like, after my mom passed, I struggled with self-harm and suicidal ideation. I got help for it because I have an amazing dad who was my rock during a lot of that. Because even though they were separated, he still very much loved my mom, and I know that it affected him too, because we both held that hope of her coming back. But as someone who's also been on the reverse side of, like, I'd personally struggled, when you're in that deep mindset of, like, this feels hopeless, like, when you lose the hope, it's you kind of begin to feel like a burden in a
Yes.
way, like, and I think that reframed it for me of, like, I remember one day when I was just going through it, I was probably, like, 13, 14. I was just sitting in my room, something just came to me, and I was like, "This is how she probably felt."
Mm.
She lost her kid, she made terrible decisions as a mother. I know she felt guilty for it. I mean, she had verbalized that to me.
And probably deep, deep shame, like deep shame.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this is where I hold a piece of guilt. I think she probably did feel like wanted no relationship with her. And maybe, 12-year-old me or younger me who was victimized did feel that way.
Right.
However, I did want her. I just didn't want her in the state that she was in.
You wanted and deserved a healthier version of your mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you started to mention it a little bit ago, but
Mhm.
how did you find out that she died?
So her parent, like her mom and stepdad, actually came to our house and told my dad. I was asleep still, and my dad was supposed to wake me up for church that day, and he didn't, and so I woke up, like, late, and it was, like, 10 o'clock, and that's late for church. I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I missed church, no one woke me up," and so my dad was like, "Hey, we have to go to Granny and Grandpa's house," which is my dad's parents. So
Okay.
in my childhood, I only had, like, 3 people in my family after no contact with my mom, and it was just my dad, my granny, and my grandpa,
Mm,
and they all 3 kind of raised me. I was very close with my grandpa and my granny too, and my dad, but, like, me and my grandpa were very close. So he was like, "We need to go over to their house," and I that wasn't weird to me. It was a little bit weird because it was, like, a Sunday, and I usually went over there, like, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it was, like, slightly odd, but I was also like, I saw them all the time, and my dad seemed off. My veteran dad was, like, just, like, in his stoicness, right? Like, we just have to, like, go over there. And as soon as I opened the garage door, like, it just felt weird and, like, dark. I don't know how to explain it. It just, like, their whole house, like, for some reason, the lights were off. Why are the lights off in the house? And, like, just a lamp was on, which made this whole thing, I don't know what it is. It was, like, cold and, like, dark
mm,
and sad. And my grandpa comes up to me and he's like, "Your mom's dead." Like, that's just like, that's how he said it,
whoa.
which hindsight, like, as a 13-year-old, like, I'm like, "That was an awful way to tell someone." And my granny's crying, and I just lost it and, like, locked myself in the bathroom for, like, an hour. I just felt like the way it was said, which I forgive my family for that. I think, like, I in the moment, I can be angry, but I'm also like, as a parent, how do you tell a 13-year-old that, like, their mom is dead? Like,
I was
genuinely.
about to ask, like, what do you think? What do you think would have been better?
No, like, I
Yeah,
think okay, for one, maybe, like, getting me through the door and, like, setting me down would have been, like, the first option, like,
sure.
the lights thing, maybe I'm reading too much into that, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Like,
maybe they
turn
were
the
just
heat on, turn some
yeah,
soft lighting on.
maybe I don't know. I think as a parent, I would have done it differently, but
Hmm,
it's easy to say that
yeah,
like, it's easy to say that on the other end.
yeah. I know you already shared that you were not invited to the funeral.
Yeah.
But does that include your dad? Like, your dad was also not
Yeah,
invited?
yeah, me and my dad were not invited, and finding out was, like, kind of traumatic too. I think that was, like, one of the more traumatic parts of the loss, because I just, like, held on to, like, I'm gonna get to, like, finally see my mom. Even though she's not gonna be alive or honestly there, I will get to, like, see my beautiful mother, hold her again, like, touch her again. Like, I'm getting emotional, and you know, that's,
Yeah,
like, the I think the part that I was, like, holding on to a little bit.
yeah.
That was the hard part. I found out on Facebook that we missed
Man.
it by an hour, and, like, my granny and me were on Facebook, and We were because we were trying to keep up with it because we had a feeling they weren't going to tell us, even though my dad specifically asked them to let him know because he wanted to go. Basically, we saw it on Facebook. I thought we could maybe make it. I didn't even change my clothes. Like, I was gonna be wearing, like, shorts and a t-shirt to my mom's funeral, which I was just trying to get there,
Right.
and then when we got there and realized, like, no one was there, I, like, broke my granny's car window. Like,
Hmm.
literally, I was, like, so angry, I just, like, hit it and it, like, cracked the window
Wow.
because I was just all of that anger just came up and I was just like, "I have to break something in this moment."
Yeah. Your grief strength.
Yeah, literally, because, those car windows, like, that's hard, and I
Yeah.
didn't hit it with anything other than my fist. I'm probably honestly, looking back, I
Yeah.
probably, like, fractured my hand because I had pain in it for a while after.
Can imagine.
But a few weeks after my mom died and, like, the funeral had happened, I had a dream. Like, I prayed that night, and I was like, "God, I just need, like, closure of some kind. I just need to, like, know where she's at."
Yeah.
So I have, like, a place, and I had a dream where my mom was buried, and the next day I was like, "Dad, I think I know where she's at." And he drove me and we found her grave.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
That's wild.
that was like, whoa, like, I get chills when I think about it. Like, there's no way I could have known where in that cemetery she was at.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just yeah,
What a wild experience for both of you,
literally.
I'm sure.
Yeah, my dad was like he's like, "How did you know?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Literally, I
Hmm.
I prayed about it, I had a dream, and now we're here. Don't know.
Hmm. Wow. And so what did the next few months, years of kind of your grief process look like after your mom died?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was kinda going through it, but I met my husband when we were 14 in high school, and he was, like, a really big support system for me, and I had my really awesome family during all that, and then me and my husband got married. We got married really young. It's not for everyone, but we did it, and
Yeah.
it's been fine, and then I decided at, like, around how old was I? It was a little after I turned 20 that, like, we wanted to have a baby. And I have PCOS and endometriosis. Women's health is tough sometimes because it's hard to explain the things to the doctors.
Yeah.
However, I did struggle with infertility. We had tried for 9 months to a year around that, and like it was just nothing. And that was also a big part, I think, of my grieving process, kind of with my mom as well,
Mhm.
because I'm like, the only thing I want to be able to do is just be a mom that I didn't have. That was where, like, my brain immediately
Yeah.
went, like, I want this thing. I haven't asked for much. Like, I already didn't have a mom, so the least I can do is, like, be a mom, right? And it just, like, wasn't happening. I just remember that was, like, the anger piece of my grief, I think, kind of coming out because I was just, like, angry. Why am I not getting pregnant? But also sad. What if I can never get pregnant? What if I never have a baby? And all the worst case scenarios.
And you were putting, like, a lot of weight, it sounds like, into
Yeah.
having, like, a corrective experience too, which
Yeah.
sounds like it was probably adding to the stress and anger at that time.
Like, the pressure to do it right, and you're actually the first to ever say it in that way, like, the corrective experience, but that
Mhm.
is so true for me. I do have a little girl now, I did get my little miracle baby. I really thought I was having a boy, and then it was a girl, and I'm like, "What if I do the same thing to my kid that, like, my mom did to
Mm.
me?"
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with you, like, it felt like I needed to redeem it in a way, or I think in a way I didn't have a mom figure, but I wanted to be the figure I needed.
Yeah. It's like, therapeutically, like, inner child work, right? Like, how do we become the
Yeah,
parent that we didn't have growing up to
absolutely,
ourselves? And then you
absolutely.
another phase further, like, to your child, right?
No,
But first
no,
it starts with,
absolutely.
like, how do I become my own parent?
No, yeah, and that was just, like, a lot of pressure, but
Yeah.
I didn't do IVF, but there's another form of, infertility treatment, especially with, like, PCOS. My body doesn't make hormones properly, so they were just, like, replacing the certain hormones I needed on different phases of my cycle in order to, like, help me, like, have a normal life, preferably, because, hormones are a big part of that. It was actually for one, it was helpful in getting pregnant, but also, like, helpful as a human because I was like, "Oh, I'm lacking all these hormones," but I didn't realize how important they were to my mental health,
You're like, "Whoa, this is what it feels like to be, quote, normal."
literally. But I did, get pregnant after two or 3 months of doing, like, the hormone replacement stuff,
Mhm.
but in the process of that, I was about oh, I was between 18 and 20 weeks pregnant, and in between that, I had my gender reveal party, found out with a little girl. My grandpa and my granny bought a lot of stuff for my daughter's room. My grandpa had his birthday, which was actually yesterday. My grandpa's birthday is the 20th of
Wow.
May, so
Hmm.
of 2024, and then 12 days later, my grandpa actually died by suicide, and I remember thinking, "How in the hell is this happening again to
Yeah.
me?" And I know that's so selfish, but I'm like, "What the hell is happening to me right
Right.
now?" And that was absolutely the worst thing I've ever gone through in my entire life,
Mm.
still to this day. And I
Yeah.
probably will get emotional when talking about it because
It's okay.
that was absolutely the worst thing I've ever gone through in my life. I don't think anything will ever be worse than that, genuinely,
Yeah.
because of how close we were. But also, we saw each other that morning, and we went to breakfast because every Saturday we would go to breakfast with my dad, my husband, my granny, and my grandpa, and then obviously I was pregnant, so my little one. And I remember he got out of the car, and we got out of the car to, like, meet them, and I immediately said to my husband, "I wonder if my grandpa's tired because something seems off." Or my husband was just like, "Oh, I think he's probably just tired, it's, like, 8 in the morning, right?" And so I'm like, "Okay." But we go inside, and me and my grandpa are talking and stuff because we always sat across from each other. I always just wanted to talk to my grandpa, and we were fine, everything was fine, and as we were leaving, he gave me a hug, and he was like, "I love you, and I'm proud of you," and I didn't think anything of it. He told me that all the time, but then him and my granny, they went and had a good day. They went and antique shopped, and that was their thing, and he bought her this huge painting, this huge, beautiful painting of Italy, and they took it home, and I went home with my husband and my dad. Like, me and my dad and my husband, we all own land together. We live in separate houses, but it's, like, near each other, so, like, we all went home together. My grandparents went home. I was like, "I'm tired, I'm pregnant, 20 weeks almost 20 weeks pregnant, I'm tired, I'm taking a nap." My grandparents go home, and my granny's like, "Hey, like, let's hang this picture up," but the little things on the back of the picture were, like, broken, so my grandpa needed to fix it, and my granny was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go change my clothes, and I'll meet you in the living room to hang it up." And my grandpa goes outside and around the back patio, and my granny finds him. I'll spare you, like, the memes, right? But it was not good, and my granny had a heart attack when she found him because of how bad it was, and then my granny called my dad, and my dad ran over to our house and was sobbing and, like, let us know that my grandpa was gone, and I said, "Did they call an ambulance?" And he was like, "There's no way." And I just broke down after that, and I honestly don't really remember anything between that and getting to the house.
Yeah.
I passed out at some point. I was, like, throwing up from crying so much and was, like, in and out of consciousness, and so
Yeah.
they were all concerned, like, "Is she gonna have a miscarriage from the just, you know, the cortisol levels going up?" And so we go over to my granny's house to be with her, and there's crime scene stuff everywhere and cops everywhere and neighbors coming outside and me pushing past cops and telling them to shut the hell up, stop talking to me about, like, because they were like, "You can't go certain places because of obviously the scene." I don't really give a crap what you're telling me. I need to like,
Yeah.
I wanted to see my grandpa. Like, in that moment, something was like, "I need to see my grandpa." They did not let me see my grandpa, probably for the better, but in that moment, it just felt like survival, I
Mhm.
think, because I'm pregnant and I am in grad school, and now because I'm in grad school for mental health stuff, my family's now looking to me to be that rock, and I'm not okay. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not good, and I think they all knew. They were worried about me because I was out of everyone, even like, my granny and my grandpa had a beautiful relationship, married for, like, 40 years. However, me and my grandpa just had a different Bond, I named my daughter after him. Like, I had already planned all of that before he passed. She already had her name picked out for weeks before 2 weeks before this happened, and it honestly, I still stand by like, that was the most traumatic thing I've ever gone through because then the police were like, "We're not going to clean up the scene. You have to pay $700 to have someone do that."
Mhm.
And me and my dad are like, "We don't have that. We don't
Yeah.
have $700." Like, I'm pregnant in grad school. My dad is a disabled veteran. He's on a fixed income. My granny's in the hospital currently because she had a heart attack, and we're not gonna let my granny come home and still see that. And so that was where the secondary trauma of this came in because me and my dad were the ones who cleaned everything up. And that was even more traumatic because no one should ever have to do that, let alone the granddaughter and the son of the person who is gone.
Yeah.
And I was angry.
Of
My dad was
course.
angry. It felt in the moment like, "I'm pregnant, like, you're having your like, a great-grandchild is coming."
Yeah.
Um, and I still feel like we're healing. I will tell you right now, like, my granny, she's healthy physically, however, I know things are different
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. Yeah.
because she still lives there.
Yeah.
Where you know what I mean? Like, she still lives there. I bring my kid over there. I'm, like, just in this house where I grew up. I just think, like, me and my grandpa used to run around in here when I was her age.
Mm.
She just I don't know. I know my granny's hurting. It's been almost it'll be 2 years on June 8th, and I don't think
Hmm.
my granny's gotten any better.
Yeah. She's probably just, like, in deep survival mode.
Yeah, and, like, my dad has gotten a bit better, like, it was bad for him for, like, the first 6 months because my grandpa did everything for my granny, like, financially both
Huh.
financially and she didn't work, and, like, my grandpa was making, like, really good money at the time, and now me and my dad are, like, thrown into this role of, like, my dad takes her to get groceries, and
Yeah.
my dad takes fills up her gas tank. I'm like, "We can set boundaries though." Like, and like, yes, be there for your mom, but some of it is, like, extreme, not very kind to my dad in the process of it. Me and my dad have both pushed for her to, like, downsize because their house is big and it's just her now,
Big and
and
also, like, so
trauma
traumatizing.
that's
Yeah.
in there. I don't know how she does it,
Yeah.
genuinely, like, I could not I don't enjoy going over there.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. I have great memories in the house. I have really good memories in the house, but I do think about what happened every time I go there.
Of course.
And I look out the window and I just wonder what things would be like if they were different. I go out into the back patio often and just talk to him.
Mm.
I know he's not there, but it just I don't know. My grandpa was cremated and I have his ashes, but for some reason the patio feels more
Mm. I mean,
close. I don't know
it's
how
where
to
you
explain
said
it.
he, like, took his
Yeah.
last breath, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My granny is very opposed to leaving the house, and she pays her own bills, so we can't really do anything about it.
Right.
I mean, like, we don't help her financially, like, she is okay with all of that, but it's more of, like, the daily tasks of, like, my dad picks her up for church even though she can drive. My granny is very healthy. She can drive, but, like, she never had to. My granny can put gas in her car, but she never had to, and she could go grocery shopping, but she doesn't wanna go on her own.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of ripple effects, like,
Yeah,
so probably countless ripple effects
yeah,
between all 3 of you. This is, I know, kind of like a cliche question when it's
yeah.
about
No.
suicide, but, like, looking back, were there signs? Like, or is this
Yeah,
one of those things that you're like, "This was a complete shock and no one saw it coming?"
this is where my family has riffraff because my grandpa told me things that he did not tell my other family members, And so whenever it all happened, they had asked, had he ever shown signs, or like when the police and the detective come and they ask all the questions, because they have to rule out the thing just for the reporting process. And I said, "Yeah." And my whole family, like, looks at me like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, one time whenever I was 17, so 5 years prior? No, 6 years, sorry, I can't do math."
Me neither. Me too. That's why we're therapists.
No, I'm like, but anyway, my grandpa told me, his exact words to me was, "If I ever get sick with something bad, like dementia or cancer, like something that is not him anymore," his words was, "Bring me my gun." And my grandpa is a veteran. I thought he was just, like, saying something just to, like, get a rise out of someone, and I was like, "No, I would never bring you that.
Hmm.
I would take care of you." That's what I said, being 17 and so naive, like, "I love you, everything's fine." My grandpa I think, definitely struggled with depression. I can't speak for him. He never, like, verbalized that to me. He never said, "I'm struggling with these feelings or thoughts or whatnot," but his demeanor, he was always very reserved and quiet and didn't really speak unless spoken to type of thing. And as you know, veterans' mental health, that's a whole other can of worms, but,
Yeah.
I'm sure there was something there. He was also adopted and has a lot of childhood stuff as well, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot there, but when I told the police that, my granny was very mad at me because she was like, "He was not suicidal at all. He was on medication for his heart, AFib, because he was diagnosed with AFib, like, a month prior to all of this."
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And also had, like, kidney stuff that had recently popped up and, like, a lot of health stuff, ironically, with what I
Mm,
just said, pop up, and
yeah.
my grandpa also shared with me privately that the doctors believed he was in, like, early onset dementia, but not to tell my granny, and this was, like, 6 months prior to that, and I didn't and all of that memory of him saying that phrase to me did not come up in my brain until this happened. Like, I would like to make that clear. Like, if I would have known, I would have, like, told someone sooner. I do hold guilt for that because I'm like, what if I would have just, like, told my dad or told my granny and we would have removed the things from the house? I'm angry at myself for not looking further into that. However, I'm also giving myself grace because I was 17
Yeah.
when he said that to me. I truly believe my grandpa was struggling with mental health.
Yeah.
I stand by that. I am saying it on the podcast. I believe that my grandpa was struggling with mental health. I think
Yeah.
by us trying to make other reasons other than his mental health, whether if it really was related to, like, his physical health, like, that's still mental health. He didn't want to suffer with his physical conditions anymore because it takes a toll on your mental health.
Yes.
No matter how you frame it, he died by suicide. He was struggling with mental health, and by us not saying that, we're adding to the stigma of suicide. And I firmly believe that, and, I mean, you've probably caught me using, like, the language of, like, died by suicide
Correct.
because
Yeah.
I truly believe language matters too. Like, you'll hear a lot of people use commit or the things, but I feel like that adds to the stigma because when you use the language of commit, like, they committed a crime or they committed a sin, like, those same
Correct.
language, like, no, my grandpa was a human being who did not do anything illegal, right? He was a human being who was struggling with his mental health, and that is how he passed away. He died by
Yeah.
suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. I know even just hearing you say in the immediately following this event and having your grandmother say your grandfather wasn't suicidal
Yeah,
is it's like a heartbreaking
yeah,
disconnection, right? Because obviously he was suicidal because he died by suicide.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that I can imagine, yeah, is incredibly hard. And these things can definitely create divides in families and people who want to kind of be hush hush or brush things under the rug versus things that maybe are important to talk about. And, I can relate to that with talking about overdose. Like, there are people in
yeah,
my family who didn't want anyone to know my sister died of an overdose. And I was like, that's how my sister died. And that's important to talk about. And I'm in the field. And I think that yeah, like you were saying, the more that we don't talk about it, we're just encouraging more stigma. And I don't think that helps anybody.
The more that we don't talk about it, it's not like it's magically gonna disappear one day. People are still gonna lose their sisters, brothers, husbands, wives, grandparents, cousins, friends, whoever, neighbor, coworker, to
Yeah,
something, and if we don't talk about it, how do we ever expect the stigma of that us not talking about it isn't making people want to die by suicide any less.
correct.
It's just
Yeah,
making them not tell anyone that they're
yes,
struggling with mental health, which is probably more likely going to isolate them and create this feeling of like, I can't talk to anyone about it because they'll think I'm crazy or they'll think that something's wrong with me or they'll just blow it off. And I think that's awful and I don't want anyone to experience that, truly.
and you've already mentioned a couple times in this conversation and also in the thing that you submitted for me is how important, like, suicide prevention advocacy is. And
Yes.
obviously, besides having conversations like this and you being, in the mental health field and getting a degree and doing these things, like, are there other ways that you have shown up in the world that has helped you lean into the advocacy?
Yes, so I'm currently involved in an organization called the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and I've really enjoyed my work with them. I'm currently on their board, their Oklahoma board, and that's been a really great outlet for me because I've been able to see that, like, I've been able to actually be in the change itself, going to like the advocacy day events and the things, and I think it's really important, and I'm not employed by them. It's totally my volunteer stuff. I chose to do that because I think it's my way of serving my loved ones that I lost, because if I can maybe show up for other people who are struggling or other people who are survivors of suicide loss, maybe just this one singular person can hopefully create some sort of conversation. At the end of the day, I just want someone to talk about it. I just want there to be a conversation
Yeah.
about it and how to prevent it, and that our society is going in a direction of like we actually believe that mental health struggles are a thing now. Hopefully, we've gotten to a place where that's a thing, right? However, I think there's always room for growth, and this is a definitely an area where there's still stigma.
Yeah, very much so.
And then, I've there's lots of great mental health organizations, even if it's not the one that I'm part of, there's so many in the communities and things, so.
Do you have, like, visions of in the future, not, like, so far down, but in the next, like,
Mhm.
5 years, other things that you're wanting to do with this interest?
Well, because I'm in school to be a therapist, I'm hopefully done within the next 6 months to a year. I am gonna continue seeing clients and stuff, but I also want to be a bigger voice with mental health advocacy in general, not just for suicide prevention, but just breaking the stigma of mental health in general because there is so much around getting help,
Mhm.
right? So I hope to be like that beacon of light in that way. And I don't have any immediate plans other than staying involved in my community and serving people and continuing conversations like this with other great
Yeah.
people in the mental health field like you. And then just reminding people that I've been through a lot. And I would say it over and over again, if a million bad things happen to me, I can at least be a good person. I don't need to let my bitterness from those things make other people bitter or add to that. Like, I
Mm,
hope if anything, I can continue going through these awful things, but hopefully something good comes from them. I'm not gonna
mm.
let it end bad, you know?
Like, you want your life to be more than just the things that have happened to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
One of the last things I'm kind of thinking of, and, I mentioned that experience of having the corrective experience with you becoming a mother and with your daughter, and I think I'm just wondering, like, how do you plan on when your daughter gets a little bit older, like, how are you gonna talk to her about these things?
It's funny that you mentioned that because I just had this conversation with my husband like a week ago. Because I told him one day she's gonna ask, "Where's my grandma?" She has a grandma on my husband's side, obviously, but, when she realizes other kids have too, she's gonna be like, "What?" And I think it really depends on the age that she starts asking questions, because obviously, and like, you're a therapist, but, like, there's different ways to approach death and loss with with different age groups. I'll probably go about it from the point of view of, like, sometimes people struggle with sickness, and it's not just physical. Sometimes we have sickness and hurt in our mind, and sometimes that can also lead to them not being with us here on earth, but there are other ways we can honor them. But then, like, older, explaining the importance of, if you're having these thoughts ever, if you're ever feeling sad or feeling anxious, I want you to know that I'm not going to judge you, and I want you to come to me. I think I can turn it into a conversation of, I am safe.
Yeah.
I am safe to talk to.
Mhm.
Even that in itself can decrease the risk of suicide for her,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
creating a safe place. But I do want to be transparent with my child. I don't think that, again, it goes back to the stigma, right? I don't want to be ashamed of it. It's just, the age appropriateness of when they're asked.
Yeah. I love what you said about the way you'll talk about it, different phases of her life is gonna be different, which makes
Yeah,
sense, and what I heard you say, though, is at the core, like, you want to be transparent with her about even just the
yeah,
bigger, like, death and loss lens, and, you were a 13-year-old who didn't get to go to a funeral, and I know that experience. I know lots of people who've had similar experiences where whether they weren't invited or maybe they were told, like, "You're too young to go to a funeral," I think really
yeah,
does the person a disservice, and so, yeah, I think
absolutely.
there's a lot of really powerful future conversations in you and your daughter's life,
Yeah,
and she's lucky to have a mother who really wants to lean into this and help through an individual way and a global way of destigmatizing these conversations. So I think it's really important, and yeah, I appreciate you touching on that.
yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that too, because it's definitely a fear. I said it earlier. Motherhood is hard, guys, but being a mom, parenting and being a mother with no mother is also hard,
Yeah.
and trying to figure it out. And I'm not gonna be perfect because none of us are, right? But my mom may not have taught me what I should do as a mom, but she did teach me what I should not do as a mom. And so I know I at least won't do those things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and that's a whole other secondary loss of itself. Yeah, going through motherhood without your mother, like, it's definitely is a whole different layered experience of this too.
Yeah.
Well, as we're wrapping up, I know you mentioned that the death date for your grandfather is coming up in just, like, a little over a week. Like, is there anything that you do on that day or planning on doing? And if not, that's fine too.
Last year we didn't because it was just not.
And that was the one year.
Yeah. Yesterday on his birthday, I went and got ice cream because me and my grandpa used to always go on ice cream dates.
Okay, that's
And so me and
nice.
my husband and my daughter went and got ice cream. But
Really
I
nice.
don't know what we'll do this year on his death date, but I definitely wanna do something this year. Like, I would love my granny to be involved, and I would love my dad to be involved, but if they're not at that stage of their grief yet, I understand, and I'll probably still do something. Maybe we'll go to dinner or something,
Mm,
but probably
yeah,
nothing like, like a balloon release or anything like that yet, but I would eventually love to do something like that.
yeah, yeah. And, I know you know this, there's no right or wrong way to do it. What I recommend to then sometimes this is too painful too, and that's okay too, is, like, the very least, like, say their name that day, right? It doesn't need to be a big thing, doesn't even need to be a meal or a balloon release, and at some point, that might feel really good for you and your family, and, like, saying his name and sharing a story about him, like, that's a way of honoring our people too.
Yeah. I have a good friend of mine, and he lost his son to suicide. We met in the organization I'm part of, but every time he orders a meal or, like, a coffee or something, he gives his kid's name, and I think that's awesome. I don't know, I just felt like that was important to say. It might be good for someone. I'm gonna start
No,
doing it.
I love that. I've heard that once before of somebody who their mom died, and yeah, with, like, coffee, they always use her name because it's nice for them to hear someone say her mom's name, and I have always thought, like, that's really nice. maybe I should do that. And then I always forget. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad that you mentioned that. I do. I think that's like a really special way to honor people too. That can be like such a simple thing to do. So,
Yeah.
well, I just really, really appreciate you, Makenzie. And I really enjoyed hearing about your story. And it's been a lot of loss for you from a very young age, just starting at like estrangement from a caregiver, right? And then very traumatic loss, and you now, going into a field where you want to help other people and help destigmatize mental health and addiction in our society. Like, I think it's again so important, so powerful. So yeah, thanks for being here today, and thanks for having this conversation with me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening and doing this podcast in general, because I think this is also a really great way to be able to talk about grief and how it doesn't have to fit a certain mold that people have the idea.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, again, thank you for reaching out, and thanks for letting us know a little bit of your story, and good luck with the rest of school. Good luck with
Yeah.
finishing your degree.
Thank you.
You're so close.
I know. I'm almost to the end.
You're
I'm
almost
almost
to the
done.
end. Yeah. All right, Makenzie, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sitting with us through this heavy yet vital conversation. Breaking the silence and destigmatizing the reality of suicide takes immense courage, and I'm so grateful to Makenzie for sharing her story. If listening today brought up difficult things for you, please don't carry them alone. Reach out to a trusted friend, a professional, or connect with the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988. We all deserve a safe place to hold the weight. If this conversation helped you feel less alone, there are a few ways to stay connected into this community. To stay updated on everything we're doing, you can subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on Instagram. If you're feeling the digital fatigue and looking for support that you can actually hold in your hands, please join the waitlist for the Echo Registry. Our Pen Pal project is for anyone tired of connecting through screens and looking for the tactile connection of writing to another grieving human. And of course, you can grab the free ebook, Let Me Know If You Need Anything, and other things to stop saying, right on the website. And lastly, if you haven't yet, please take a second to rate and review the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's a small act that makes a massive difference in helping other grievers find this space. Take care of yourself, and I'll be back next week with a brand new episode.